When I first bought my duplex, one of the questions I first had was, what renovations do I need to do to actually make it worth renting out? What renovations are going to hold me back from getting it rented out? So in this video, I want to talk about how to go about valuing those things, get an idea of what renovations you absolutely need to do and which ones have the highest return. So just to start off, I can't exactly tell you which ones have the highest rate of return because that really depends on the market, it depends on your strategy. It depends on if you're doing short-term, medium-term, or long-term rentals. Oftentimes with long-term rentals though, at least in my experience and from things that I've learned, now of course I've only dealt with one duplex myself, when I first bought the property, I was like, oh yeah, I could totally rent this out right now. Yeah, that didn't work out at all. It was really, really rough shape. I'd never tried renting one out before, and so I was like, okay, well, this should be easy. I'll just post it on Zillow. I'll just try to rent it out. And the problem with that was I would try showing people the home, and they'd say, this needs a little bit of work. This looks a little rough. I don't know that I'd want to live in this. And to me, I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally fine with living in this because it's a lot less expensive, but also at the same time, I didn't see it through the eyes of the customer, and that's something I learned how to do. Now, I'm not saying that I do that right now because I learned a lot through the process, and I definitely don't do that still. I don't try to offer a property that was, properties when they're listed, they generally have problems. There's generally some issues with it that need to be remedied prior to renting it back out. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised the house still had a tenant in it when I bought it. Now, when I bought it and took possession, the tenant was not there anymore, but it's one of those things where you gotta look through the eyes of the customer and see what other people are looking for. So one of the places that I started with this was I started looking on Zillow, I started looking on apartments.com. I looked at all the other properties in the area to see what other people were trying to rent for, what people were charging, and then also being a realtor as well, I had a better idea too of the price point on a lot of the properties too, because I've been looking at them for the past year trying to see what they all go for on the price side of things. And so I was like, okay, well, I know this one's like $150,000 property for the investor to buy, and then they're renting it for this much, and I could do all the calculations and stuff. I have a spreadsheet. I have another video if you want to take a look. I do have a video on how I run the numbers on my properties. Heck, I might even do like a live stream someday of just running numbers on properties. I know a lot of people like doing those study sessions and stuff, and who knows, maybe someone wants to, some people want to just run numbers on properties, give feedback to each other. That'd be a pretty cool, engaging way for people to keep doing that, because that's one thing that people have a hard time with, is getting disciplined and doing the calculations every single day. And now, the main benefit of that though is allowing you to get a better mental idea of what a property goes for. Now it's a lot easier for me to drive around an area and look at a property and say, okay, they're renting it for this much. Yeah, that deal makes sense. Or no, that deal does not make sense, even if you bought it with cash. And so that's a hurdle people have to get over. But back to the main point here of, I was looking at these properties and I knew the renovations they had done. I didn't know at the time how much it cost to do those renovations, but it was something for me to learn over time. And so I took that information that I learned and I applied it to the property that I had. I said, okay, well, what are some of the, because I didn't have a lot of cash coming in right at the time. I was still working full-time employment at the time, and then also hadn't had any real estate sales really as a realtor other than buying my house. I brokered that transaction myself, but beyond that, I was like, okay, well, I gotta make it work with the cash I have because I gotta get this place rented. And so then it becomes, okay, well, let's look at some of the biggest points that are actually beneficial. Paint, floors, kitchens, and bathrooms. Those are things that I've learned from the Bigger Pockets community. That's something that I'll always remember. Paint, floors, kitchens, and bathrooms. That's what I always think about. Those are the biggest impact areas, is what people look at. That was what people would always mention when they were walking through the home. They worried about the floor because it was this really worn out carpet that for some reason I decided to pay someone to try and clean because I thought I could resurrect it from the dead. No, that doesn't work. If you ever try to revive old carpet by just having it clean, that's $200 wasted. Don't do it. And so I focused on finding contractors to help give me an idea, because contractors are also working on other rental properties. The contractor I was working with, he's working on an entire apartment complex at the same time, and he's like, yeah, I can make time for you. And he was able to give me some insights as to what people like right now, what people are going for, what people like about the certain product too when it comes to flooring, like which flooring is better than other flooring. Reach out to those people who work with the materials every single day to get the best insights. So those are some of the things that have benefited a lot in the process of renovating. I'm not saying that will guarantee the cost of doing doing any renovations, because every deal is different, but it should at least get you started with thinking, what do I need to do? So like paint, floors, kitchens, and bathrooms. You can look on apartments.com and Zillow to see what other people are renting things for. Get an idea too by checking out that video of mine on analyzing a deal, because you got to know up front how much properties go for and how much they rent for. So how much they sell for, and then how much they rent for, and if the deal makes sense. Because then with that, you're able to derive how much you also want to have for your operating expenses, all that stuff. And you can even put that into the calculator that I shared in that video. It's just a spreadsheet that will give you an idea of what your cash on cash return is, especially accounting for funds that are invested. So hopefully that helps out. I know it's a long-winded explanation of how I approach just replacing, honestly, floors, paint, and maybe a little bit of walls and some light fixtures and faucets. Faucets do matter. Don't give people a gunky faucet. Make sure that that gets replaced and isn't leaking. But that's just some of the ideas of how I approach that. Try to think outside the box. You may think, oh, I can get by with bare minimum. Well, try to do a little bit better than bare minimum, because it will pay back a lot in return. You'll be very, very happy you did. You'll have less likelihood of needing to do a repair. It's a lot easier to discern the condition after tenants move out. Hopefully they don't, but if they do, you'll be able to discern the condition because you know what it looked like, and it's not like this carpet that's got stains already and then you're saying, well, you added this stain. No, they didn't, because you gave them a carpet with stains, and you're lucky at that point they even wanted to rent it if it had stains. So hopefully that helps out. Long-winded explanation of things to focus on. If you have any questions about the cost of renovations, feel free to drop a comment below. I can't guarantee that I know the cost for your area, but there are general costs for things like floors and paint. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.